No, they had a program that forced them out. They didn't leave the house.
I feel that. I understand that. I can't, but ain't nobody gonna make me leave my woman. I get that. I get it, but ain't nobody gonna make me leave my family.
I can't disagree with that. The broken home stereotype. It's an image that's been pinned on the Black community for generations. But we have to ask ourselves, is this truly the result of systemic traps trying to pull us apart? Or did it come down to a simple lack of personal accountability? I wanted to dive into this video by Consciously and Sister Song Women of Color. They've got a panel of Black men that tackle a lot of topics that I plan on covering in the future. But today, I wanted to focus in on the moment that these men got into the why behind the broken home. Let's jump into this.
I think one of the things that I think helps, I believe, with women's right in terms of their sexual reproduction is the relationship that we have with the Black men. I heard a psychiatrist when I was on one of the panels say that African-American men and women are suffering from 450 years of post-slavery PTSD.
Yes.
So one of the things that I love about this thing right here is that the next one I want to see is Black men and Black women sitting down together and talking about how do we learn to exist in peace. And I say that because I'm saying this, and a lot of times I have to catch myself. It's emotional. I grew up with a lot of violence around me. My father, when he drank.
That's dope to see the old head. Shout out to Clifton Powell. He's a legend in the game. But it's dope to see the old head preaching peace and saying how, as Black people, the men and women should come together instead of how we often see the divide that's often seen on the YouTubes and the internets and all that. You know what I mean?
I seen him knock women. My father fight a baby. He was just off. He was mentally off from the oppression of this culture that broke him. And, so we were born, a lot of us were born into that, our fathers, and we're trying to break those cycles. So somehow that ties into me to women's reproductive choices in terms of having a baby with a guy that's comes from a broken family. Now the baby coming.
It's unfortunate that he grew up in a home like that, but I don't know if how you behave, the individual choice you make to inflict harm upon your loved ones can be blamed on the system and whatever systemic oppression that was passed on through generations. I understand it can cause you to have unfair living situations and a very difficult upbringing, but that individual choice to decide to raise your hand to someone like your child or your baby, like he just said, it's I don't know if I can agree with the broken system calling these men to be broken in that sense. In that sense, at least. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
And with a broken family and bam, and the mother's asking the father for support and like, yo, I ain't asked you to have that motherfucking baby. That ain't shit. I don't even know if that's that motherfucker. I mean, there's so many levels to this that make women coward or not want to talk, or be the victim of one guy shot his baby mama and the kids the other day. It's so I think we got to attack that from not just right now in this racist culture that we're seeing with this administration, but also from a generational standpoint.
For sure. I don't have the historical information, man. That's why I'm a listener, man. I'm a great listener. But when I hear, from your generation, your perspective, and your perspective, and everybody's perspective in the sense that as we get into it, I feel like we let women down in that regard. We didn't stand on business. And
what you mean by that?
I just feel like we let depression wear us down. Fathers let depression wear them down and beat them down, take them out of the house. And therefore,
no, they forced them out of the house.
Forced them.
No, they had a program. They forced them out.
They
didn't leave the house.
I feel that. I understand that. I can't, but ain't nobody gonna make me leave my woman. I get that. I get it, but ain't nobody gonna make me leave my family.
I can't disagree with that. I don't know how things were in the past when the factory shut down and Black people were not necessarily given the opportunity to work at certain institutions and to be able to work in different industries. But no matter what, unless I was with a woman who valued money more than the home and family and raising kids together, no matter what struggles we went through, I don't see how men were forced out of the home.
I got you.
I get what I understand that I could never fathom what went on back then.
I'm a man who dates men. A lot of men aren't strong. So the way that you say you're not gonna take nobody from my family, you're not gonna strip me from my family.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't walk with that. A lot of people don't have that. So I mean, like, it is systematic, but I mean, at the same time,
I mean, it
you
beats you-
somebody. I mean, you part of like the few men who is not gonna live their life like
I
that.
mean, I get a system that
So-
you live in a place
Yeah.
that is just geared to tell you you ain't shit, you ain't shit, you ain't shit.
And it beats you down.
You ain't shit, you ain't shit.
Yeah.
And it beats your other counterpart down, so y'all come home to
Madness.
beatness. Yeah. Nobody know how to heal anybody, right?
It's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of different influences that happen, whether it's drugs, right? We know that our community struggled with that for a long time.
But let's talk about
was
them.
given
Let's
to us,
go
though.
back
They give it to
though.
us, but
But
this-
no. Let's go back and talk about the CIA putting the drugs in the
that's
neighborhood.
what I'm gonna say. We're in a country where drugs is probably the most highest profit of things that you want, right? But just speaking on fatherhood and being in the house and not being in the household, I think yes, a lot of pressures coming from East Side, right?
Yeah.
I've looked at fathers who weren't in the household and had conversations with them and say, "Man, you've been on drugs since you was 12 years old, brother."
You know, just like I mentioned, there are so many factors that can speak to why someone like Clifton Powell, from the generation that he's from, can feel as though it's solely the system's fault and it couldn't be anything else. But currently, right now, in the times that we live in, we often try to take more responsibility and accountability for our missteps or things that we did not necessarily plan properly for or execute in the way that we wanted to. And as a result, we tend to try to avoid constantly blaming the system and racism for all of our failures, you know?
Your brain doesn't have the capability of thinking correctly,
That's true.
right? You are afraid that you can't provide for your family, so you would rather leave, right? Not knowing that you have a woman who's willing to stay down with you and hold you down no matter what, right? So it's just, as a man who, even to this day, get nervous, right? Like, oh
Yeah.
man, this shit is slowing up. Like, am I better off telling my baby and them, like, are y'all good? No, of course not, right?
Right.
But you have to be honest about yourself and say, I'm fearful of certain things, and say, and not necessarily a weakness, but necessarily it's like, I'm scared, right? That I can't provide.
Yeah.
And now I've either let someone else kind of tell me what I need to do, right? Rather than following my own intuition and having a relationship with my ancestors in the universe and that can really guide you, or having that one-on-one with your lady. So many things that can pull people out of the house. Similar to the conversation is like, well, if I was enslaved, I wouldn't have done that. It's like, well, you really don't know.
Exactly. And that's why you have to be really careful when you speak on these things, because I prefaced it with, like, I don't know what was going on during those times, and I tried to think of all the different factors that may have influenced why Clifton Powell may have the view that he has and the perspective that he has shared with those guys. But I just feel like at the end of the day, like, as I stated, if you have a partner who's really about family and you're really about your family and providing for them, you wouldn't have been removed from the home. You know, there's no offer that they can give to a woman with your children and in the home with you that's a good woman that would leave because she's gonna now start getting some funding from the government. Not a good woman, at least.
It's like, it's so many different things that go into why people do things, and sometimes, yeah, you can name it to, it's like, oh, this person was being a coward, or this person was being, but a lot of it is fear, and a lot of it is because we're the minority, and because the pressure that comes from so many other people that don't look like us, it's a lot of pressure that makes you feel that way. And then you got the people that's in your community that oppress you, right?
Yeah.
And so as men, we do it to women, right? As men, that's the tier.
Right.
We do it to women even more, right? We fall underneath that same thing. And so to your point, we got to strip that away, figure out what the issue is with that, have those conversations, understand that it's layers and layers of what it is, but also don't be like, you weak as hell.
Maybe should have worded it like that now.
No, I know. No, I'm just saying, you wouldn't have been able to do it. You ain't been able to hold it down, but it's just like, man, it's so many, reasons why a man will leave a household. And then sometimes it's, us not holding them accountable and saying, hey, look, man, you need to get your shit together.
Yeah.
All right, you need to make sure you
Facts.
over there. Because now I'm sitting here playing spades with you and smoking. You ain't seeing your kid 3 blocks down the street
No
in
accountability.
weeks.
Right.
So no accountability. So to your point, as you was talking to your driver, let's take accountability, but then also kind of give each other a little bit of grace and understanding, especially our OGs who went through a lot, especially our guys who are coming from Vietnam,
Right.
who came home to nothing and lost everything and went out there and lost their mind, saw things.
That was very well said. That was very well said. And it's something that I don't, after having a child, I don't think there's anything that would ever lead to me deciding to not do anything that I can to ensure that I can feed my son. It's like the number one thing in my life now. Right adjacent to it is ensuring that my future wife is also taken care of. It's crazy how much your life changes when you start a family. And to think that there are men who do this with strangers or do this with people that they say that they love, and then they're willing to give that up because they can't make any money at the moment because they want to choose to be lazy and not have to work, maybe go live back at home with their parent. I really don't, for me at least, and this is not me passing judgment, but for me at least, matter of fact, it is me passing judgment. I think men who can do those type of things, you're a bum. And something that my boy Black said is we have to normalize not hanging out with dudes that don't take care of their kids, that are not in their children's lives. It's different if someone's not allowing you to be in your child's life. It's different if someone is holding you back from seeing your kids. But for men to make the decision to not engage or participate fully in the life of the child that they chose to have with whatever woman they chose to have them, it's why we have those statistics. It's why they can make those images of us and why they can speak on us the way that they speak on us. We have to be more accountable, and we have to also hold our friends accountable or the people around us in our community to ensure that this is no longer a thing.